What's going on, guys? Welcome into Nebraska football at the voice of college football. I want to bring up our names here so y'all know who the hell we are. That's Brian, in case you didn't know before I brought his name up. And I'm Justin. You followed us, the _H-Town Husker and at KC Husker 24 over there. Brian, we got a lot to talk about, but how's it going, man?
I am doing pretty damn good. I'm off work for the next 3 weeks, so I'm excited right now.
Wow. Bro's on vacation mode.
Yeah.
Bro, you're not going to know how to work again when you go back.
Yeah, I know, especially because the next time I work, it's likely going to be at a new job.
Yeah, you're just going to like that week 3 is going to come up and you're like, damn, this Monday feels like the worst Monday of my life. Now, You'll probably be itching. I'm going to tell you right now, you'll be itching to get back after it. I swear. Like when I left Amazon, there was a period of time there where I didn't have a job. I was like, it's going to be great. In the meantime, I was doing content. I was just doing that. And I was like, bro, like I need something structure. I need to get out of my house. Like something like I gotta go somewhere and do something. So it's
well, I'm going to be locked in my house with 3 kids and my wife, because her last day of work is July 31st. And we're going to have this whole month of August where we're transitioning. So it's going to be pretty awful, actually.
Yeah. I'd much rather be at work than with kids and my wife. No, I'm playing. My wife sometimes tunes in the show, but I don't have kids, so I can say that about the kids. Go Bog Red, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, go Bog Red.
Go Bog Red. Speaking of Go Big Red, I got to witness Bryce Matthews' first and second career home runs live and in person with my Houston Astros, because they are visiting Arizona and they play the D-backs. So I got to go to that game last night. Bryce Matthews, man, it was a show he put on. Won the game for us. So
yeah, he had 5 RBIs, man? That's huge.
5 ribbies, man. Won the game. It was 6-3. So huge game. Did y'all hear Rhule's comment? And it's not a typical. I heard a lot of Rhule comments.
Yeah.
So which one? Did you find this job, Brian?
I should hear back. I had my final interview with the company Thursday. They said I'd hear back this week. I'm hoping tomorrow. I'll probably give them a ring in the afternoon. And then I've got a final interview with another company on Friday, but we're going down regardless. My wife is, she makes pretty damn good money, so she'll buy the house if need be. And I'll just, I'll make content all day until I find something.
Brian's a Nepo baby.
Yeah.
Right about my lights changing here. I'm just trying
to get a sugar mama.
I'm just trying to not look as red and Irish. So I'm trying to get my lighting situated. But he said we were going to make a run at this thing. Yes, we're going to dive into all of the Big Ten Media Days, Nebraska's comments, Matt Rhule's comments, et cetera, et cetera. Brian, I missed your Mark interview on Iowa page.
Oh, man, that was a disaster, technology-wise.
You went on the Iowa channel or Mark?
I went on with Mark on the Iowa channel a week or 2 ago, and I was doing it from my car on my lunch break, and my phone literally, like the StreamYard app kept crashing over and over again. I couldn't figure out why, and I just texted him after the second or third time. I was like, you know what, I'm done.
That's StreamYard for you.
Yeah,
it'll do that. All right. Well, John's here to hear the Rhule talk, and I think that's why we're all here. So
yes,
let's go ahead and get started. And just first things first, like what were your big takeaways, high level overview before we get into specifics of the things that he talked about in this Big Ten Media Days, that maybe the tone. And I know you didn't get to watch all of it because you had work. But from what you did see, what was your kind of thoughts?
The big thing, I think it's very quiet confidence. It's kind of like, what was that Mike that said that he thinks we're going to make a run at this thing. Yeah. He does a good job dancing around, pumping that hype up for Nebraska. But it's the Big Ten Media Days. This is where everyone's at the best shape they've ever been in their life, and everything's looking great. But there is a very quiet confidence with Matt Rhule right now. It was very illuminating to just kind of hear him keep reiterating the same message, which that goes to culture within the program, is you have to, continuously have these good vibes. You have to speak this into existence. And so from what I did see, very, very confident, quietly with this program, the direction it's in. From a roster standpoint, that's what I was most curious about today, was learning about some of the roster stuff. with Turner Corcoran's injury, granted, I personally, I don't think you either, but we're expecting much from him based on how his career has went. But hearing he's still like not even running pretty much
it's going to be a while, he said.
Yeah, so that was a little concerning. But overall, I mean, we talked a little bit prior to the show about his comments about Frost, and that's what stood out to me the most, because he could have absolutely gone in, but it was a masterclass on dealing with the media by Coach Rhule, per usual. I mean, the dude is a freaking surgeon with the media.
I mean, you can tell he was like a preacher in this past, because he knows how to put things in a way where he doesn't really set himself up for negative attention in a lot of cases, but also kind of like you said, kind of in the middle a little bit. However, what I noticed is a shift in tone from 2023, 2024 to 2025. I think the biggest shift in the tone for me has gone from, this is his job to basically be held accountable for all the mistakes that happen, but now it's on the players a little bit more, right? The accountability has gone from the coaches in the beginning, right? Because in the beginning, they're still trying to teach these players, the culture, how to win. So I think that the staff took on a lot more of the blunt, of the stuff that went wrong. And I think this now, we saw it a little bit in 2024, and now to 2025, we're really starting to see it where it's really like accountability is important. I'm going to talk about it a little bit later, but he talked about, Raiola, like, you got to throw guys open. They're not open. Because he mentioned about a show that was talking about wide receivers not getting separation. Might have been this one, because I talked about that a lot last year. But he was like, some guy did a video on it, and but he was like, that's why you got to throw the guys open. And so I think that was one of the biggest things, just player accountability. And he kind of he said that kind of 2023 is going to start more of us, less of them, and it's going to go to more of them, less of us. But again, at the end of the day, he still knows that everything falls on him, right? But it's less of the rest of the staff. It's more so like on the players to do the job. His job is to prepare them, and if they come in and they're detailed and do their preparation, then they're going to win. They got the recipe there for them. They got the talent, coming in there for them. So I'll just go off the top of a couple things, and it says Raiola's on Big Ten Network right now. So try to
all the players are on BTN right now.
Yeah, stay up with a little recap of what we got going on. I got Twitter up because I knew they were going to be talking at the podium. So Husker Wrestling, what's up, Joseph? Appreciate you hopping in here. Go Big Red. Yes, sir. All right. So his first little thing he talked about was in the side interview, and I'm just going to go point by point. Talked about Isaiah Mosey and him being in the backfield, what led to that. It was something that he played before. He had a lot of success in outside zones and stuff like that, is what he said. But kind of what we talked about, it's just an opportunity to get him on the field quick as possible and in a multitude of ways. So he's going to be kind of a gadget creative. They're going to find creative ways to use him. And that's kind of what we talked about. That's kind of what I talked about, maybe using him as like a Deebo Samuel type of player. And I think that's kind of their goal.
There's a couple guys on this roster where, and I think it's been Rhule really since he started here, and probably going back to Baylor as well, where you just have these guys that are super athletic and you just got to find a way to get them on the field. It was everything, ironically, Scott Frost said he would do that he didn't do, except for Wan'Dale Robinson. But moving Heinrich Haarberg to tight end, one of those athletes, you just got to find a way to get him on the field. Carter Nelson last year playing wide receiver, really good athlete, just got to get him on the field. So they're increasing their athleticism a ton right now. And the future, again, this is like trying not to pump too much hype into it, but the future at Nebraska, especially on the offensive side of the ball, with all these skill guys we're talking about, is just incredibly bright right now. I'm so pumped.
100%. And then speaking of the running back room, he talked about how, there's a competition for the second and third spots. Meaningful touches, those guys are going to get meaningful touches all the way down to the fourth quarterback on the depth chart. So it's one of those things that those guys need to be ready. And I feel like our running back room, I feel like they feel confident about it again. If y'all listen to my interview with Rashawn Nelson, Makai's father, there's a lot to be and I'll be reposting that video on the channel as well. But his backstory with Mackay and just hearing how much of a grinder Mackay is, like I feel like we have a lot of those type of guys, like Quentin Ives. He's a grinder. Mackay Nelson's a grinder. Emmett Johnson's obviously a grinder, and he still looks big as hell. Emmett he stacked on some weight. And you got Jamarian Parker, who's still fresh here. But we'll see. You'll see how they work their way into there. And then, of course, Mosey's already made an impression.
What's crazy is you mentioned Emmett Johnson. Like, everyone's seen the pictures of Emmett, and he looks so much bigger. You'd be the one to speak to this. Okay, they updated the roster today. He's the exact same size as last year. So how does someone go from 2024 to now, and his physique has completely changed? I mean, the tone in his arms, his quads, he's huge, but weight-wise, he's listed at 200 still, and that's updated today.
Yep, drop body fat and put on muscle. And in a lot of cases, that's why, like, when I work with clients, I tell them, I said, you're judged by the mirror, not by the scale. That number means absolutely nothing to me because it doesn't take into body composition. So, if he's carrying excess body fat, let's say he drops 10 pounds of fat and puts on 10 pounds of muscle, that's going to be a big distinct difference in how he looks physically. And I know his body fat won't get too low because at a certain point you got to be able to go out there and still play. And if you have too low of a body fat, but I feel like they dialed that nutritioning in to the point where he's lean, but still strong, explosive, and all of that. And probably was able to, get that way through, the explosive training and really kind of putting the right type of weight on him instead of just excess bulk. But yeah, he definitely needed to put that size on to be more of kind of that workhorse back. Because I talked to somebody about it on Generation Red podcast, and they didn't like what I had to say necessarily about it. But they were talking about, because I said the running back room, I was like the only one, I think it might have been, that said the running back room will go over 2,200 yards, and I had him pegged for 2,400. And somebody said, well, for that to happen, statistically, Emmett would need to have 1,000 yards, because I said I don't think we'll necessarily have a 1,000-yard rusher, because I think it's gonna be spread around all those guys. Now Emmett's going to get the most touches, but I figured it up. He was 35% of our production of rushing yards last year, so he would only need 787 yards rushing to be able to get that mark. So I do think that this running back room and him especially is going to might ultimately end up being one of the better surprises of this team in a lot of people's eyes.
I'm slowly kind of buying into this running back room a little bit more. There's, like we've talked about a lot, just not a lot of proven talent, a lot of proven depth. I'm sorry, a lot of talent, not a lot of proven depth. But the skill guys, I mean, moving over Isaiah Mosey to running back now officially, and then he bulked up. He's 210 now, 6 foot 210. Okay, you're bulking up with Quentin Ives. He's now listed 215. You got a physical power back. There's a lot of athleticism in that room. I would not be shocked, like you said, if you see that spread out between multiple backs, obviously with EJ carrying the load primarily. But I'm slowly kind of, as we get ready for this season, I'm looking at this running back room, and it's not going to be the 95 running back room, but it's going to be a pretty darn good room, I think.
I'll tell you what, EJ is a great reason to feel good about it alone. Having him there is, that gives you a little bit of an extra confidence, just having a good coach there that is like all these guys are bought into him as a coach. And that can take you a long way when you got a lot of guys who are bought in, which is what it feels like this Nebraska team is right now. So let me dive through some of the comments. Let's see. Go Big Red. Good to see you guys. Good to see you, Ron, man. Appreciate you hopping in here. Set my alarm and tuned into Rhule Live. What's going on, Rashawn? Appreciate you hopping in here. Great day, fellas. Yep. Great day, fellas. Yeah, as we're talking about the running back room. Again, if y'all didn't see our interview, I'm going to be reposting the video, but y'all are going to need to check that out because it was a fantastic interview. Barney looks bigger. Hopefully it doesn't slow him down. I think with strength and conditioning and sports science, especially with the investment they have into it, Matt Rhule actually mentioned that today. They know how to train these guys to be able to train them in the proper way and put the right kind of bulk on them. That's why I'm not too worried about it. Tommy Hill talked about it last year. Now, he got injured, all things considered, but remember, Tommy Hill put 15 pounds of weight on him, and that was so he could be a little bit, more physical downhill and stop the run. And honestly, he didn't lose a step of his explosiveness or speed or anything like that. Or he looked more explosive, didn't lose a step of speed, but he's unfortunately injured. So
through two this season, he looked like an All-American almost.
Yeah, so I'm not too worried about it. I think they know they got the right nutrition and all that, and as long, I mean, there's a science behind that to be able to make that happen. I think they're good on that for sure. What's up, fellas? Great to see you on Husker Talk Tuesday. You guys are awesome. Thank you, David, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's not what Brian tells me, but I like to tell myself that sometimes. So, all right, let's dive back into a couple other things. So he did talk about Raiola. Raiola talked a bit too, and I think you probably saw that. But Raiola talking about, the standard for this team is to win national championships, right? And Matt Rhule kind of elaborated on, what makes Raiola a good fit here. Being a QB in the Big Ten, kind of the measurables, the big body, big frame guy, that can grip it in adverse weather and be able to spin it, and throw it into the wind. And he talked about that 2024, 2023 when he was recruiting Raiola too, that you need those guys who can just pump that ball, through the wind, have the velocity on it to make it get through without it, the wind blowing it down and stuff like that too. So, and Raiola did talk about kind of what, we knew was going to happen with him, running the ball a little bit more this coming season. Also, now talking about his development as a quarterback, he talks about like him being the guy who wants to take the shot at the buzzer, having a guy who is that type of guy. But talking about what he learned as a quarterback from last season to this season, I think the biggest thing there was last season was him figuring out the speed of college football. And he came in, learned the playbook, and he was kind of learning on the fly, like how to read defenses post snap, those type of things. Is it a single high shell? Is it an open shell? Is it cover 2, cover 4? Like those type of details. Are they bringing a blitz here? Are they bringing a blitz here? What's the line doing? How many men are down on line? That type of thing. So like they talked about trying to put him in intentionally uncomfortable situations to kind of push that, through him quicker because it was a short amount of time. But he talked about him trying to make too many wow plays in the beginning and later kind of taking what the defense was giving him there. And I think that a lot of that was due to the offense too, but the game slowing down for him a bit and him just kind of being able to learn those and read those things better. But I think a lot of it had to do with that offense as well, because Rhule talked about Raiola blitzing the blitzing of the back, bro. I can't talk. And not having him on a route when he says, Raiola, Rhule told Raiola, step 1 to being a great quarterback in the NFL is to make sure you're protected. Step 2 is to line, the back or line the lineup with the blitz so that way you can get the back out and burn the blitz, is what he used as quote, like he did in the Boston College game. So talked about how Butler's defense would help get him prepared for that, giving him a bunch of different looks and stuff like that. His mind's a lot shorter, so that means he can reset quicker mentally. And like I think all of these things are the things that people don't think about when they talk about a quarterback taking the next step from year 1 to year 2, because think about how little practices that he got, in last offseason. Not a lot.
Yeah. And you think back, I always go back to that Illinois game. It's kind of like the tale of two halves, right? That first half, he was dicing Illinois up left and right. They were doing a lot of drop zones. That second half, Brett Bielema came out. They changed it up. They went a lot more man coverage, and that's where you saw Dylan struggle a little bit more. And that kind of put his deficiencies, if you want to call it, on tape. And then that's what kind of shortly after that is what led to that midseason lull. Now, part of that, again, is offense as well. But we've said it time and time again, with Holgorsen at the helm of the offense, it's going to be a completely different setup, I imagine. It's all about rhythm, quick passes, get the ball out in space. And so he's not going to have to sit back there and there's times, actually a lot of times last season, where the route concepts were so deep and he has to sit there for 3-4 seconds in the pocket and decipher what's happening on that back end while he's getting rushed. with Holgerson, it's going to be way less of that. So where Dylan struggled last year, you're going to see, I think, that not be his strength per se, but I think it's going to be a lot more of he's more comfortable in those scenarios, especially against man coverage. That was where he struggled the most as a quarterback, was passing to receivers in man coverage. And part of that too, again, wide receiver play was up and down.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, and two, like, yeah, like he talked about. Now the way Rhule put it was like there was this narrative of it was like a narrative that wide receivers weren't getting separation, but I think he kind of alluded to that being truthful, because he said our wide receivers are our wide receivers and we've got to win, so you got to throw them open. There's no defense for a perfect pass if he can throw the perfect pass. And so, like, I think what he's saying, there's like he said the narrative, which originally, like, hearing that made me think he was going to say like, oh, it wasn't the case, but it sounds like he's saying that was the case. However, with the quarterback, you can't use that as an excuse. You just gotta make that throw and figure that out.
Yeah, and there's times last year where I think back to that Purdue game where they did a lot of man coverage, and it didn't seem like he was, and I may be wrong, but it didn't seem like he was trying to throw them open, more so just throw them into a defensive pass interference or an incompletion situation. I think a lot of this goes back to trust. And, I don't think they're ever going to say that openly in the public, that maybe he didn't trust Banks or he didn't trust Nayor a ton. But I think that's a lot of it too. And you've already heard reports, very little that come out. Dinky, Isaiah Hunter, Barney, and Dylan are just absolutely in sync right now. All three of them collectively are just, there's a high trust factor with those three. And so you'll probably see him take more of that risk where he's going to trust Dinky to get that inch of separation to make that catch on a 3rd and medium.
Not only that, I feel like he trusts himself more this year, and I feel like that's going to be a big part of it too. But yeah, there was a lot of cases where you had that man coverage on the sideline and you just had them, get vertical, press towards that sideline and throw it up to him. And, if you got a shorter DB manned up against Jamal Banks, like, either he's going to have to interfere, that ball is going to go incomplete, or Jamal Banks is going to go up and get it. And more often than not, it ended up being that. So it was like, yeah, they're trying to draw penalties there for a little bit, but which is a great strategy to use. I mean, it worked. So, but over time, that wasn't going to continue to work, and the receivers were going to have to be able to get separation. A lot of that, again, too, was route concepts. But yeah, I talked about that when I did a film review of the Purdue game. Why is our shortest route 15 yards down the field on a 3rd down, and Raiola's having to roll right and take a hit throwing it 30 yards down the field because there's no checkdowns for him. It made no sense. And so it's little stuff like that too that kind of pushes at his confidence as well. So I'm sure he's trusting his line more. I'm sure there's a lot more trust this year in who he's got.
Yeah, they bring a lot of talent on that offensive line. It'll make a difference.
Yeah. Let's see. Another thing he mentioned too, with schools giving money to kids while they're in high school. That's kind of crazy. They're still in high school, and like some of the big name schools, he said, are giving them money while they're in high school, which is crazy. He said until they legislate, there's nothing technically illegal about it, but
it's hundreds of thousands of dollars that people are paying for commit.
Yep, and that's
it's disgusting
too. Like, they're paying them while they're still in high school.
Yeah,
not when they get to campus.
There's got to be some law against that. I mean,
he said there really wasn't. They're going to have to legislate it. There's going to be rules put down a lot of the stuff, and I think he's anticipating that coming. But
because it's a disaster right now with NIL and rev share, and I think everyone's on board with paying the players. I mean, at the end of the day, we're showing up. I mean, we're 2 Joe Blows, doing a podcast, 2-3 times a week for these players. So the 100% support paying them, but paying a 16-year-old kid, 17-year-old kid, $500-600 grand.
I was thinking pay them when they get to college, but paying them while they're in high school, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like that could go very wrong if a kid's getting paid by this school, and then they're what's locked in? What can you lock in with a 16-year-old? They can't even sign anything, really.
Yep.
They have to get a legal guard. Is like, I don't understand like what all that entails.
And what if they decommit?
That's what I'm saying. What if they go to another school and they're like, that school's like, I can pay you more, you know? I think there's a situation that if that has happened, there's a situation that'll arise that'll put something in motion there.
It's going to happen for sure.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, by the way, you did talk about Turner being out a while, but Teddy's good, of course.
Yep,
So
that's big.
Talking about, and then they talked about the pressure of year 3, and this is one of the things that I want to talk about, like the pressure on him of year 3. And he said, "Did somebody fall? Did
We're
child
good. No one's
fall?
crying.
Okay, perfect. They're tough. They're used to falling, I guess.
Nobody's crying."
But he's like, he said he doesn't feel pressure, and I love the way he put this, because he said it's not a pressure, it's more of a standard or expectation, like setting a standard or expectation. And I think that's the biggest thing, is like people are like, oh, there's so much pressure on him, you know, how was he going to handle that? But I think in a way he's telling them that he's setting that standard for himself. Others aren't setting that for him, so why would he feel pressure, you know, from the outside when he's setting a standard of winning already on the inside, and that's the expectation? Well, he doesn't anticipate going below that, because so like there's no I see why there's no pressure on him, because he's like, if we fail, it's because he failed. And I think he knows that. So yeah, so like I don't think there's any fear or like outside pressure that he's just feeling too much of.
There was a quote, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he talked about the standard being whatever it is, and then the elite players, that standard is not high enough for some of them. And he used Dylan, I believe, as one of the examples, and the guys that were there, you know, Henry Lutovsky, Buford, Singleton, as the guys that that standard is like their low bar, and that's what he wants everyone else to be. Coach Rhule saying this, and that standard is basically ground floor. And I think that's really important too, is when you get guys where the expectation, the standard is like the absolute bare minimum, that's when you see a team turn into the Georgias of the world or the Ohio States of the world, where they're just freaking pumping out NFL dudes left and right. They're winning titles, they're playing in playoff games. So that was really big, that it seems like they're kind of getting towards that objective.
Yeah, and I talked to you before the show about it, and of course I mentioned it on the show, but the Astros game, watching Bryce Matthews come in and hit 2 home runs yesterday, like there's this weird thing with the Astros, being an Astros fan, where it's just like, no matter what, like we have 16 players in the injured list. 5 of our 9 opening day starters in our lineup are out, but continue to win. And it's like every player that gets called up performs to some, you know, decent level, if not a way higher level than expected. But and it's not a highly rated farm system or anything like that. But I feel like that comes from that culture of winning and that expectation of like, okay, you're up here, right? This is the standard. I don't care if you feel like you belong up here or not. You have to meet this standard, and this is it. And I think players, you know, feed off of that good culture and that vibe of winning. And I think with a good culture, you don't feel pressure
Yes,
to meet those expectations. I think more so like it's fostered within you, that like, you know, that's the standard, but it's not like, oh, like all of a sudden you get here and it's like, this is what, like, I feel like that's known. When you come into it, they build you up to that pressure moment, you know, and that's why I think a lot of these players are able to step in there and do what they do. And I think that's the biggest thing in Nebraska. Yeah, there was probably pressure before. If you got like a team that's you know, on the out, like let's go to his quote about the why he took the job in Nebraska. You probably may not have saw that, but he talked about why he took the job in Nebraska was because he saw, not because he saw like a beautiful like mansion or whatever, right? He saw the bare bones of a beautiful mansion, right? But there were things that needed to be fixed. Can you back out? Come back in. Okay. So, sorry, started echo again for a second, or I started echo on his end. But yeah, I'll wait till Brian pops back in here and I'll continue my point. Okay, there we are. All right. So he talked about the bare bones, maybe the landscaping not being done, windows missing, whatever. I forget how he broke it down, but you know what I'm talking about, like a rundown mansion that has potential to be great. And he turned it, but he's like, because the foundation's there, and that sparked my mind a little bit, because what I kind of referenced before when I'm looking at programs like Nebraska versus programs like Colorado and Indiana and those teams that build quick, and have to build quick. Nebraska is that team that has that foundation. I bought a house from the 60s on purpose because I wanted a house that had a great foundation, whereas you get to these cookie cutter homes now and, everything looks so nice, but the foundation is horrible, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like there's nothing to build upon that's super stable, but we can make it look great. We can put this here, put this here, put this here, and it looks brand new, beautiful, great, all this other stuff. But what happens when things start to chip at that foundation, and then you're on a house of cards. Your house isn't built to last, and I think that's one of the biggest things in Nebraska that he's trying to do is, with a foundation, he's building something that's going to last. He didn't want to win. He didn't necessarily want to win in year 1 or 2 because he knew there was no shortcut to this. And now he's getting to the point where he's like, okay, like now we got everything where we wanted. Let's call the landscapers out, let's finish the outside, now we fix the house. Let's finish the little details in the outside. And I think that's the point in the build that Nebraska's at. It's details, teaching attention to detail, and making sure that they execute on every single play. And it's that standard.
Yeah. I like there's part of it. I got it pulled up here. So I'm kind of just reading directly from this post here, but he said, he's talking about the Nebraska as a whole and the NIL world and facilities and everything. And he said everything was behind. This was obviously, he started in the midst of this massive $165 million, expansion or whatever you want to call this new facility. And then we started to get to the point where, the Pede family is donating a lot more money, a lot more resources to NIL. And it was just a matter of putting this stuff together, building your foundation, as we're saying, right? You're building this facility, you're getting your money, and then it's about to take off. And that's kind of what he's insinuating too. And he said, look, we make more of an investment in nutrition than any team in the country. Look at our sports. Look at how they're blossoming right now because the investment we're making in nutrition and sports science. There wasn't a sauna in the facility when we first got here. Now you've got to pick between a steam room, a sauna, an infrared sauna, a personal sauna. Those were the investments. And those are all those finishing touches we're talking about now too. So you've got all this new crap that you can sell to recruits. You're getting the money now. It's just like you said, you're teaching fundamentals now. And he's very confident this thing's about to take off. And I think we're right to kind of have that same feeling. It may not be this year, maybe a year or two from now, but it is certainly heading in that direction.
Yeah. I think the biggest part of it is just hearing the tone change. And he's not the type that's going to blow smoke up our ass, because again, if he's setting the expectation, setting the standard, he's setting it to where he doesn't feel pressure. So he's not going to set those expectations too lofty. He's going to set them where he feels like, this team really can get to. And I feel like they think this team can be an outside shot at a playoff contender, not national championship contender. I'm talking about getting in the playoff, just in case anybody hears that later. So we're talking about
just said we're winning the national title.
I said every year. We're going to talk about, let's just talk about the Scott Frost stuff real fast. Because he did get asked about that. So let's go ahead and talk about it. I hate to bring it up again, but let's just talk about it real quick. So
you want to exhibit on how to handle it? This is it.
Yeah, go ahead. Give your thoughts.
Basically, he's the ultimate professional at all times. Admits, Nebraska wasn't, in a good spot. It wasn't a good job when he took over. And we were talking prior to the show. Scott Frost said this is the wrong job, and Coach Rhule said it was not a good job. And those are two very, very different things. And so I want to stress that. We'll get to that here in just a minute. But, he said, I think Scott was just talking about for him, and I respect that. I feel for him and and want him to always know that, man, the things he did at this school, I want him to always feel like he can come back and have a home here. That being said, it's the right job for me, which is important as well. And then at the very end of this was a little nugget that is the most professional shade I've ever seen a coach throw towards another coach. When he got here, there were 24 ACL injuries the 4 years before I got here. There were 49 major knee injuries. There were an old beat up turf field outside. And without saying it directly, he's completely fixed that with his strength training, with Corey Campbell, with nutrition. So it was a nice little job of saying, hey, your strength program sucked ass when I was taking over.
Yeah, no. And kind of like we were talking about where, because we both thought this same thing, and we both heard the same word when he's talking about, the question was Scott Frost was answering not whether it was a good job or a bad job. Like, we knew that Nebraska at the time Scott Frost came on was not a good job. Like, it was a bad job. That was not in a good situation. That was never the debate. He said it was the wrong job. And I think that's where, because he was here for 5 years, whatever. He said the wrong job. Well, if it was the wrong job, why are you telling us we're right there, right around the corner all that time, blowing smoke up our ass and stuff like that? I think that's why the fans had an issue with it. But I do appreciate his willingness. Like, I think he truly respects Scott Frost, because I think Matt Rhule is a guy who just respects people. And like, I still think like Scott Frost, what he did as a player here and all that stuff, like, he respects that. And I do think he genuinely feels bad for how his time here went, because, he doesn't want that for anybody. And he feels like Scott Frost is a place that is more Nebraska than him. So I feel like he thinks, he's got to, that's why he always talks about owing to, the Tom Osbornes, the Devaney's and stuff like that. And so I do think he's being genuine when he says all that stuff. But I do think there was a little bit of a wording difference there to prove his point, which I'm cool. Like, it's fine by me. Like, Scott Frost said what he said, and if he just goes, really, Scott Frost just doesn't mention it again, it won't come up anymore. That's the biggest thing. So I'm hoping that could be just a little bit of a final word on it. But the respect and empathy is there, and we know that. But I just think that's the type of person he is, because he did talk about too, like, the money wasn't near what it is now, and that's partially due to leadership. His leadership and him and Troy Dannon's leadership have been able to get it there. He saw what it could be with an investment, and even for him, he was like, to come out here and see what it's about. I didn't know what Nebraska was about. You talk to kids nowadays, they say it's cornfields around a stadium and all that stuff. So like, I think in a way, that was partially due to the failures of the previous staff and of course the previous athletic director. And you can see the difference in the entirety of the athletic department now. And I think Matt Rhule is a big part of that. And that was, again, something that I think Scott Frost was in over his head. And that's where I think for him to say it's the wrong job is him taking away all of the nuance of what. So why was it the wrong job? Saying that is, was it the wrong job because the infrastructure was there and you didn't know how to build it, or, stuff like that. So, but yeah, so, I appreciate the way he handled it, because that's just the type of guy he is.
Today, just whenever I hear Rhule, like, just kind of get this chance to kind of spread his message about Nebraska as a whole, it's just a confirmation again of this time in this era of college football. As a Nebraska fan, there isn't someone else you would want leading this program right now.
No, I don't think there's a better person for it.
Guy for it.
Yeah,
and whether he has great success or not, I don't know. But you have to feel confident, at least with that guy running the building and Troy Dannon. Right now, those are the two guys you feel very confident to take us through this next, 5-10 years of, we don't know what college football is going to be.
Correct. And I was a Scott Frost apologist all those years. But now that we see what it takes to get, like, I feel like you just needed to have a guy just with ample experience like Rhule. That's why I feel like Scott Frost was in over his head. I mean, taking the job, there's money on the table, take it, whatever. Maybe he thought the situation was a little better than it was from the outside looking in. It may have been. But that's where a guy like Matt Rhule comes in and has so many experiences in different states, conferences, teams that are smaller with smaller budgets, all the way up to the NFL, where he's got, to deal with David Tepper as an owner. Cause he was like, Carolina wasn't the right job for me or whatever. And it's like, yeah, because you have to deal with David Tepper,
the worst owner in sports,
who literally doesn't let you coach the team. Like Rhule went there with a 7-year plan and was just kind of like,
didn't he say, like, I thought I had more time. I was under the impression I had more time. And
he did, because when he went to Carolina, he laid out like kind of like a 7-year plan of kind of getting them back to, like, everything he does is structured. And they gave him 2 years. And also, they don't get, like, David Tepper sometimes overrides the GM on draft picks and stuff like that too. So it's a disaster to deal with. Wild space there. Let's see. Let's get into some of the comments here. Barney looks bigger. Hopefully it doesn't slow. Oh yeah, I already wanted that one. Speaking of bigger, smaller guys, whatever. There was an article with the updated measurables for the 2025 roster ahead of camp. And guess who put on the most weight?
Okay, I got the Huskers.com roster pulled up. So I'll tell you what initially stood out to me as I quickly broke this down.
Yeah, if y'all don't know in the comments, tell us which player you think put on the most weight.
My initial thought is Willis McGahee, because he's at 240 pounds now.
Okay. Let's see if we get any comments here. So Willis McGahee, let me go and see if I can see him on here.
I don't know what Carter Nelson was listed at last year, but he's huge now.
So yeah, Willis McGahee. Oh, so Willis McGahee was on the spring roster 235, and he's up 240. So
man, I didn't know he was that big.
Yeah, I didn't either. Number one is one of our guys, might be our favorite guy who may not see the field this year, Mr. David Huffkin, put on 30 pounds. He's now 200. He went from 6'7", 255 to 6'7", 285. 30 pounds.
That's incredible.
He was already huge as it was.
I wonder if they have a picture of him. I got to see this.
Jalen George put on 25 pounds. Jamarian Parker put on 25 pounds. Bryce Turner put on 20 pounds. Keona Davis, 20 pounds. Malcolm Simpson, 20. Pierce Mooberry, 20. And a few in the 15-pound range. So we had Hartzog put on 5. So just a few little updates there.
Dang, Preston Taumou was 330 almost.
Yeah, Maury Sanders put on 15 pounds. Cam Linhart put on 10. Van Poppel put on 5. Elijah Judy put on 15. Like, there are some notable strength differences here. And some of them even grew, like Jalen George. Jalen George put on 15 pounds and gained an inch, 6'2" to 6'3".
Jeez.
Yeah, so there's a few guys who climbed in height as well. But Pierce Mooberry, spring was 6'4", 200, and somehow fall was 6'3", 220. He somehow lost an inch.
He tore his ACL. Did they do surgery on the wrong part of his leg?
Yeah, shorten his knees out or something. Justin Evans put on an inch of weight, or an inch of weight.
An inch of weight.
You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so that was some of the notable strength gains there for the roster.
Oh, I did notice one. Jeremiah Jones, true freshman, 4-star receiver from Kentucky.
Athletic as all get out.
6'4", 225.
That is a
big unit. Yeah, he might be a tight end in a year or two.
6'4", 220, and athletic is crazy work. Let's see. People laugh at me, but eventually I could see college football going like the NFL, where you can sign and bring players on midweek to fill voids.
Well, that's where
That would be
you do
hard.
105 plus 10 inactives.
Yeah. Like I'm wondering if he's talking about like a free agency type of thing, because then,
I mean,
but that's a whole different world though, because you got to enroll to school and stuff like
there's
that.
college parts of
But I
it.
wonder if he's talking about like maybe you have kind of a list of those guys who maybe are on the back burner, and it's like, oh, like we can sign one of you now and bring you on the roster, almost like walk-ons, but to the side.
Yeah,
You know,
it's gonna be crazy.
need to win the Cincy game. That will set the tone. 100% agree. We cannot lose that game. And me and Brian have even gone out here and said that we probably need to win that game by 10 or more.
Yeah.
I'll feel good if we win that game by 10 or more, because we should beat them by 10 or more points. And this is the year where should become what happens. You know, last year it's like we should. Eventually we got to get out of that mindset too and be like, should's done. You know, like we got to win this game. That was the standard that it was when I was growing up watching this game. Is like, we'd lose a game and my week would be like the season would be over. Like, there goes a national championship game. There goes a national championship. Now we got one loss this season. Let's, now those shoulds need to be like, yeah, we need to win this. We're going to win this game.
I believe that's coming soon.
And it starts with that Cincinnati game. And I think this team is going to be fired up and motivated to go out there and put on performance. I think they win by 2 touchdowns, if not more. So ready for the games. Bring on Cincy. Exactly. I can't wait. Don't need to win, but they all matter. What if we lose to Cincinnati but win every other game? That's another factor too. I think what gets week 1 really on a lot of people, just in anything, right? You look at preseason football, right? We go so long without football and we're like talking and thinking about like, what is this team going to be? Who is this going to be? Like, we just all use that moment of like that first week as like, oh, everything I thought was wrong or everything I thought was right. You know what I'm saying? And we don't give like, oh, okay. Like, we think to ourselves, just think about how at the end of the season, think about how far away that UTEP game felt when we were in that Iowa game, right? That's a long season. Feels short, but it's a really long season. And so, yeah, saying we need to win, it's probably, not necessarily the case, but the conversation around Nebraska for that week is going to be absolutely brutal if we lose that game. So in a way, I think it's as close to a need and a must win as we have.
I'm a firm believer in the first game of the season is a tone setter.
Yes.
And you look back to Ireland, what happened ensuing that loss to Northwestern. The year prior, you lost to, I believe, Illinois at Illinois in the season opener. The year prior to that, you lost another conference season opener on the road, and you went 4-8. And then Matt Rhule's first year, you choke away the game against Minnesota, and then you went 5-7 or whatever the record was. Last year was the first year in 4 or 5 plus years where Nebraska was not playing a power conference opponent. First game of the year. And it allowed Nebraska to get some confidence, to get some momentum, to get a W in the column. And that helped set that momentum for the rest of the year. Now, it wasn't a great year. It wasn't even a good year, but it helped kind of carry some momentum throughout that first couple of weeks. And now you're playing a Power 5 opponent again, week 0, national TV in the house that Mahomes built, where the Mahomes impersonator's the quarterback. Nebraska, in my opinion, cannot afford to lose that game because it will be a tone setter for the rest of the year.
And it's a confidence builder for the young guys in the locker room. Like those guys that are being told this is the standard, dealing with questions about what went wrong, that first week, it's going to be deflating for them, And so that's kind of what you're talking about, like set the tone, build from a win instead of, learning from a loss. I feel like that's the ideal circumstance. Like in boxing, you could be the most confident boxer in the world, and I guarantee you if to go in there and lose a fight, you're going to pick yourself apart completely for 2-3 weeks. You're going to feel like you're the worst and that you don't belong. That's how it goes. So yeah, that confidence is important. Private high schools offering free tuition is a form of paying kids. I think it's a little different though. I think
They exist here.
Yeah, paying them while they're in high school from college is a little different, I think.
Yeah, it'd be like if I was Nebraska and you were my recruit and you're 16. Trey Taylor, for example, is probably making NIL from Nebraska right now.
Yeah.
16 years old. I'm betting against Trey.
Private high schools, like, they already have laws on tuition and all that stuff for them. Like, that's basically them giving them a scholarship. But I'm talking more so about, like, actually paying kids while they're 15, 16, and then what happens if they decommit, and all this other stuff. Cincy game is huge. It's a must-win. They were all big games. I agree with investments, but we're ranked and must-win, I think, is like maybe a misnomer because, like, again, a national championship game is like a must-win, right? Like, but
yeah,
there are games that we need to win and probably are about as close to like a must-win as possible, and that is one of them.
I'll even add this too. The reason why it's a must-win game is because Coach Rhule flat out said this isn't the Big 12 earlier this year. The one misstep he had was calling out the Big 12 for being an extremely weak conference.
Yeah.
That happened.
Yep. Exactly. Cincinnati is a tough test and can't be overlooked. Michigan could be a loss and the season won't feel lost. I agree with that. Yeah. I agree with that.
You could also lose Cincinnati, then beat Michigan, and then it's, then you'll take that, I think, too, right?
That week 1 loss we take way harder than a lot of other losses.
Oh, yeah. You spend the whole summer getting hyped up for it.
For that one game, and it's like deflating because then you got to think about week 2. It's like, damn, are we like, good thing we got week 2, 3, kind of bye weeks almost. But KC is grass field, isn't it? Yes.
It is.
It is. Winning could be a huge boost in recruiting, without a doubt. More investors love to see Crawford win, and he throws some money. Yeah, Bud, what are you doing, bro? Give us some NIL. Goes back to what I said before with strength and conditioning programmer to Scott Frost. Yeah, that he was kind of talking about earlier. We're talking about all the injuries and stuff like that through that week. Strength and conditioning program. Duval, Mr. Duval.
He's back with Scott at UCF too.
Yeah. Frost turned out to not be as mature as I thought. Yes, same here. I agree, John. It's not like labeling any game a must-win because what if you don't? What if you beat Cincinnati and lose the next 2? They all mattered since he's huge Big 12 team. Exactly. But I think we say must-win as like not saying like really it's like, oh, like if we lose, the world's over. Yeah, but it'll feel that way. That's the problem.
Oh, 100%. I will be raging.
Yeah, Rhule is much more. Oh, dude. That post game, y'all better tune in for that post game. That happens. Rhule much more grounded and mature compared to Scott Frost. Oh yeah, not even close. Let's face it, our coach has class. It's been a while since I've been here live. Great. Hey, appreciate that, William. Thank you for stopping back in, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I agree. Joseph came out wrong. All games are important, but with the playoff system, you can. Yeah, exactly. That Cincinnati game is huge. Primetime, Kansas City field looking good. Will matter a lot. Then got to go to compete next week too. Yes. He won't be a tight end. Remember, there are a lot of receivers that are his size. No, I think he's saying he could be, though. Definitely could. But
I mean, you could put 10 pounds on him.
But I would love 6'4", 220 and athletic to stay a receiver for sure.
I mean, if he turned out to be Megatron, I'm not going to complain,
Yeah. Wasn't a tone setter for Northwestern winning that Ireland game? No, I don't think that was a tone setter.
Northwestern's garbage.
Northwestern didn't come in with any expectations.
That's the difference.
Yeah, they didn't come in with expectations. They pried that game from our cold, dead hands, so they felt lucky to get out of there with that win. 100% they did. I know because I talked to Northwestern people after the game.
We made their 2 running backs. I remember watching that game. Damn, these guys are good running backs, solid guys.
Yep.
No, we just sucked.
William says, I remember when we expected to win. Me too. You know what's crazy? My family, they're all from Ashland, Nebraska, huge Husker fans. Like my whole dad's side of the family. He has 7 brothers and a sister. And I was born in Texas, but they say I'm the second most passionate fan in our family's history. My great grandma was the only other one. I cried when we lost the national championship game to Miami in 01 when I was 11, dude. I cried. My mom's like, "Why are you crying?" Hey, listen, I'm from a small town in the South. We don't cry out there. My mom caught me crying because we lost.
I cried
That
when
was what
Texas
it was.
beat us.
That was what it was like every time we'd lose, dude. Every time we'd lose, I just feel like it's over for us, And that was, but that's what we're kind of talking about with the expectations. Got to get back to that. Now, I feel like college football with it more, there's going to be a lot less, I think, dominance of a team winning 6 national championships, 3 national championships in a decade because of the way things are going with the NIL and it's spreading out the talent a little bit and teams kind of up and down and stuff like that. But there's still going to be that expectation of like each and every week, like we should be in a position to win this game. It's not like now where we're looking through our schedule and we see Penn State, we're like, yeah, that one's going to be a loss. Like the expectation will be that point where we get to a Penn State and be like, yeah, like 50-50. I think we can win that game. That's the expectation that we're getting to. And I think that's the difference between year 3, year 4. But this is the next evolution of that for sure. And with that comes, we got to win every game we're expected to win. We really do. And upset a couple that we're not expected to.
Yeah, last year alone, I mean, we should have won that USC game. We should have won the Iowa game. We should have won the Illinois game. I mean, those games, I believe, start changing this coming season. I mean, Nebraska was this close. We were a correct defensive pass interference call against USC from winning that game. Yep. We were a couple muffed punts and stupid decisions against Iowa winning that game.
And Ohio State was just some red zone play calling.
Yeah, I mean, we were this close, and I'm so tired of saying it, but like we are this close to turning that corner. Now I think we're going to see that happen. We have the most skill talent we've seen on Nebraska's roster since Bo Pelini. And so that's just a fact. I mean, you go back to Kenny Bell, Quincy, and then Jordan Westerkamp, Ethan Carter, Amir Abdullah. Those guys, granted, really good. We don't have all of that talent, but it's the best we've had since those guys.
And I think you can hear it when the players talk. Like, I think you can hear Matt Rhule in them almost. Like there's this group speak, almost like the tone and the messaging through the building is the same. So if you talk to Rhule, you're going to get a very similar answer, for lack of better, just different wordings maybe, but the same message applies. And I think that's one of the things we didn't have for a while there was like there was no expectation standard. There was no general messaging across the board. So you didn't know what you were going to get. I think now like each and every player is just like they all kind of preach the same thing, which means that they are setting a consistent tone throughout not only the athletic department, but throughout the staff. And that is then coming down to the team and the recruits. Listen to the way our recruits talk. They understand those things too.
And that's really important when that culture it's set from the top down, but it's really important when it starts to spread. And sidetrack, like throughout the last month and a half, I've been interviewing with companies. I will strategically try and figure out who differentiates between the culture, the expectations, the standards. And when I notice like one person I interviewed and the next person I interviewed with, they have a different answer or different expectations, that's when like my red flags go up and they're like, this culture from the top down there's a break in it. And right now you don't see that at Nebraska.
Yeah, exactly. Ron T said, I don't know. I think the skill talent might be better. It's just my opinion. I agree.
Better than Amir Abdullah and Kenny Bell and Ethan Carter?
Oh, I didn't know that's what the comparison was to. Wait. Well, Amir Abdullah, Kenny Bell, Ethan Carter. Honestly, okay, let's talk about something.
3 NFL guys right there.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about. Are we talking about like, because those guys weren't who they were coming into it, so are we talking about like what they ultimately became, or are we talking about, because we haven't seen a lot of these guys play
That's
yet.
true. I would still give that edge to those guys
for now, just because we've seen it. Yeah, but it might be because Dane Key is a 3rd, 4th round draft pick as it sits now, potentially 2nd round draft pick. And so in a way, I feel like the talent we have is better, will they perform better is the question. Like Amir Abdullah. I remember early on Amir Abdullah's career when he was returning kicks, like the thing that we all like, I don't know if you thought this too, but he was returning some for touchdowns, but he didn't have speed, dude. It didn't have a lot of speed to him. And so like I didn't think Amir Abdullah, none of us did when we're watching him return kicks, was going to be what he was. But he developed that, and he turned into that guy. And so I think right now we have a lot of those guys that have the expectation to be potentially, that maybe not to the level of Amir, but can they develop and meet that same jump that those guys did? I think if they can do that, they can be better. But it's just hard to say because it's unproven right now. So I think you got to side with those guys for right now.
I'll take our quarterback now over them, though.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. It really was terrible when Turner Gill missed the pass in 84 against Miami. Thank God I wasn't alive for that.
Oh, I have that clip burned into my memory. I wasn't alive then, but I've seen it 100 times.
Yeah. Oh, he said, let me be more specific. I meant after Frost. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. But I definitely think ours is better now for sure. Without a doubt. It's the best skill position players we've had in a long time.
That's at the end of the day, that's the ultimate point.
Yeah.
Very, very good. And it's deep too. It's deep in every spot.
It is. Yes, Joseph, really impressive Rhule and his confidence. Buckeyes Battle Cry, man. Thank y'all for hopping in here. If y'all do want to go check those guys out, they're fantastic. So go ahead and get over there and check them out. Worked with them a lot. Talked a lot of ball with them. And they like Nebraska too. They're not Nebraska fans, of course. They're the Buckeyes guys, but they like Raiola. They like this team. They like Matt Rhule. So good guys over there. The offensive stats went up a lot once Set got sat down. Yeah. It was, no secret. Just started started targeting the intermediate part of the field in the middle of the field. Everything before that was to the sides and deep. And, I talked about one thing. Sorry, 1 second. Talked about Holgerson's first game there, and we went from 3 of 9 to the intermediate part of the field at 4.6 yards per pass to 12 for 12 at 9.8 yards per pass. So not only were we more efficient to the middle part of the field, we were throwing our average depth of target was much further. So that recipe immediately made that offense that much better because then that opens everything else up.
I was just going to say, if you had seen that I think it was Luke Lindenmeyer did a short little side interview at the Team Jack Foundation run. I believe that's what it was.
I don't remember.
Where he was talking about the offensive playbook under Holgerson, and he was like, it's just so simple. He's like, I don't have to know a bunch of different things. Like, it is very, like, I know how to do a handful of things and I have to be damn good at those things. And that was like music to everybody's ears, I think.
Yep. Because those who were fans of this channel all throughout last season know that throughout the basically the first half of the season, I kept talking about I kept mentioning how the execution wasn't there, but the play calling that I kept seeing on the film was complex. And if you're not executing the simple stuff effectively, then why are we running the more complicated stuff? It made no sense. If execution can't be done on the simple plays, run the simple plays until execution is had, because you're not going to pull a cat out of a hat and be able to just, all of a sudden now we can't do the simple stuff, but let's just execute on this play consistently, And that was why there was no consistency of the offense at any point in the season. The first, we didn't feel great about the offense after the UTEP or after the Northern Iowa game, in my opinion, because the UTEP game, we came out there and scored. We feel pretty good about the UTEP game, just because we scored 40 points,
Yeah.
And we took some of the starters out later. But Northern Iowa, bro, like we beat Northern Iowa pretty badly, but it still felt like our offense stalled out way too much.
Yeah.
Way too much.
In fact, that was the game before Colorado, correct?
Yep.
So that was back-to-back games where Nebraska did not
Didn't
score
score
a
in the
single.
second half.
In the second half. That was like what red flag should have been going freaking nuts by that point.
Yep. And then we come out in the Colorado game. We didn't score in the second half.
Yeah, disappointing.
Then we came out in the Illinois game and we blew the game in the second half. So that's where execution comes into play, because whenever a coach makes adjustments at halftime, you can then switch over to another set of plays and make adjustments and trust that you're going to be able to execute on those things. Even though if they may not have been part of the week's game plan, you still need to trust that you can go to this and still execute. And that's where I think the high level of accountability, where Matt Rhule said today, needs to be more brash, more upfront, with a higher level of accountability. Talk about winning the moment, win each and every opportunity. And I think that's kind of what he's alluded to. I'm excited about our linebackers. William, me too. We have
not alone on that one.
We have a great group of linebackers. Oh my God. You know, the guy that I'm most excited about to watch on this defensive side of the ball is Dason McCullough, though. Dason McCullough is going to be a game wrecker, dude.
I was looking at the linebacker heights and weights today. I got to pull them now.
I'm still mad at
Really
ESPN for I'm still so mad at ESPN for like ruining my Dason McCullough film review by them copywriting my all 22 footage. I'm never listening. I hate ESPN. All right, go ahead.
This is a really big room, very unique as well in terms of size. Linebacker Javen Wright, 6'5", 230. I'm just going to go over the guys that are likely going to see the field. Jacob Bauer, 6'1", 220. He's that rugby player that's an absolute freak. Yep. He's going to play. Maverick Noonan, 6'4", 245. Willis McGahee, 6'1", 240. Vincent Shavers, 6'1", 230. Jordan Ochoa, 6'4", 240. Christian Jones, 6'2", 235. Dawson Merritt, 6'3", 225. Dason McCullough, 6'5", 235. Marquise Watson Trent, 5'11", 225. Big room.
Yep. Howdy, I'll go Big Red. And speaking of Marquez Washington Trent, Ron T's about him too. Yeah, he's one to be very, very excited about. I think what makes me excited about Dason McCullough is just his impact of the game in so many ways. Like, he is fast, rangy, athletic, and he can get up and defend the pass. And the dude's a nightmare defensively. He's an absolute nightmare. Marquez Washington Trent probably will be too, but yeah, there's so many things to be excited about on this defense.
Yeah, Marquise will be more of your first and second down linebacker, third and short, fourth and short type guy. I imagine my projection would be on those obvious passing situations. You pull Marquise Watson out, and then you slide over Javen Wright, and then he's your middle linebacker, and then you bring in Shavers and McCullough off the edge. Mm-hmm. That'd be my thought, or maybe McGahee off the edge.
Yeah, Javen Wright being the fast defending linebacker. I'm echoing again. Anyways, back out, come back in. But yeah, Javen Wright, because he's played defensive back, so he's a perfect fit for that kind of that roving kind of linebacker right there in the middle. And then we got a couple guys, Dason McCullough, he can get that length out there as well. Marquez Watson Trent's going to be a little bit more. We're going to shut you down in the middle. That type of thing. So, all right. Well, Brian, was there anything else that you wanted to go over here? I think the last thing, just real quick, I'll touch on this before we conclude. Justin Evans, he talked about him being an all Big Ten caliber center. Henry talked about him last season hitting his stride and coming into his own as the season went along. Mentioned Pritchett's name, but that he's not guaranteed anything, which I'm glad we heard that, because Elijah Pritchett being hyped up a lot.
Interesting comment too.
Yes, because that's been Pritchett's entire career, though. At Alabama, he was in a fight for his position all last year with a younger guy. Mm-hmm. And so still battling for it. But it was an interesting way to put it, because he was Pritchett was kind of the one guy that he stopped and said that on.
Yeah.
So, And he said,
And he's the one we've all penciled in as a starter.
Yeah. He said Gunner can start center or left tackle. We knew that. So no really updates there, but that was interesting about the Pritchett comment.
I just like he's been penciled in as a starter, and I think Rhule is kind of probably hearing that outside noise. And so to me, it's interesting in the sense that it's strategic to get that message redirected, because then that's when he brought up Gatula and Teddy being ready to roll, and Gatula can play left side. So I think it's redirecting the attention that Pritchett is getting and saying, look, he's not guaranteed nothing. Yeah, we got a guy that we can plug in right now, Gunnar Gatula. So I thought it was interesting to also kind of reset the narrative, essentially.
For sure. John coming in. Don't forget to smash that like button. Hey, thank you, John. I appreciate y'all. And yeah, if you do want to drop a like on the video before we conclude, we greatly appreciate that. Again, we are terrible at asking for likes. So we ask at the end of the show, which is the opposite of what we're supposed to do. But you know what it is. We're here to talk football. So thank y'all so much for tuning in. Brian, anything before we hop off here?
No, we're ready to rock and roll.
All right. Well, thank you again, everybody, for tuning in. I have recorded a couple of film reviews that I will be dropping in the coming days. I'm also going to drop the interview that I did with Rashawn, father of Makai, so that way y'all can get some insight on Makai. And again, I think y'all are going to be, once y'all hear the story, y'all are going to be pretty big fans of him as well. So that'll do it for us here on this rendition of Huskers Live. So we will see y'all on Thursday. We're going to have the Husker Gutter call-in show at 5 p.m. My time. So that's 7 o'clock Central. Yeah, these time zones when I'm out here is a little weird. So we will see y'all in the next video. And again, y'all stay tuned for what I got coming up as well. So with that being said, see y'all in the next video. Peace.